My name is Arthur Bell, but to my grandchildren, I've always just been Grandpa Art. I'm 73 years old, and on what should have been the warmest moment of my year, the week before Christmas, wrapping gifts at my kitchen table, everything quietly fell apart. Each present had a name on it, carefully chosen, paid for with money I saved instead of spending on myself. I imagined their faces when they opened them. I never imagined seeing those same gifts, photographed, priced, and listed online, for cash. No explanation, no apology, just a familiar sinking feeling that told me I'd been useful, not respected. It wasn't the money that hurt. It was the realization that someone I trusted decided my love was something they could flip for profit. Tonight, I'm going to tell you what my family did to me, how the gifts meant for my grandchildren were sold behind my back, and how that single act led me to sell something far more valuable in return. Not an object, not an inheritance, but a truth that had been hidden for years, and once exposed, changed how this family saw itself forever. But before I go on, let me ask you, have you ever discovered a betrayal so small it felt accidental, until it wasn't? Tell me where you're watching from in the comments. To those of you who've shared your stories here, thank you. You remind me that being quiet doesn't mean being weak. And if you're new to this channel, I invite you to subscribe. These aren't just stories. They're proof that even when respect is taken, dignity can be reclaimed. Now, let me tell you how I found the listing, who put it there, and why Christmas that year ended very differently than anyone expected. I want you to understand something about how I shop for my grandchildren. It's not casual. It's not last-minute panic at Target on Christmas Eve. For me, shopping is an act of attention, and attention, I've learned, is the truest form of love an old man can offer when he lives 3 hours away and sees his family maybe 6 times a year. This past October, I started my list. Adelaide is 9. She's obsessed with art, the kind of kid who sees the world in colors I forgot existed. She'd shown me her sketchbook over FaceTime in September, filled with drawings of horses and sunsets and elaborate fantasy castles. Her lines were getting confident. I could see real talent forming. So I researched. I spent 2 weeks reading reviews, watching YouTube videos about art supplies for kids, comparing brands. I settled on a professional-grade sketch set, 72 Prismacolor pencils in a wooden case, the kind that feels serious when you open it, the kind that says, "I see you, I see what you're becoming," $340. I didn't blink. Then there was Jude, 12 years old, quiet, the kind of boy who lives inside his head. He's into building things, Legos, model kits, anything with instructions and tiny pieces. My daughter Carolyn mentioned he'd been talking about robotics, something they were doing at school. I found a Lego Mindstorm set. You could program it, make it move, teach it to solve problems. It came with sensors and motors and a whole guidebook that looked like an engineering manual. $412. Worth every penny if it made him look up and say, "Wow." For my daughter and her husband Jonathan, I kept it simpler. Gift cards, a nice bottle of wine, a cashmere scarf for Carolyn because she's always cold. But the kids got my time, my research, my imagination about who they were becoming. I had everything shipped to Carolyn's house in Hartford on November 28th, 3 weeks before Christmas. Early enough that I wouldn't worry about delays, but late enough that the kids wouldn't accidentally find them. I texted Carolyn when the tracking said, "Delivered." Me: "Hey, sweetie, packages arrived today. Can you hide them somewhere safe? Don't let the kids peek." Carolyn: "Got them, Dad. You're so thoughtful. They're going to love these." I read that message probably 15 times. Each time I felt this warm expansion in my chest, the feeling of being needed, of still mattering in their lives even though I wasn't there for homework help or soccer games or the daily machinery of raising children. I thought about Christmas morning, the way Adelaide's eyes would go wide when she opened that wooden case, the way Jude might actually put down his phone and look at the instruction manual with genuine interest. I imagined Carolyn pulling me aside, squeezing my hand, saying what she used to say when she was small, "You're the best, Dad." I know how this sounds, like I'm some lonely old man buying affection. Maybe I am. But here's what I want you to understand. When you reach my age, when your wife has been gone for 6 years and your knees don't work right and most of your friends are either dead or in Florida, your family becomes your pulse, your proof that you mattered, that you still do. Those gifts weren't just objects. They were my way of saying, I'm still here. I still see you. You are still loved. And I genuinely believed they'd arrive under the tree with my name on the tag. That belief lasted exactly 43 days, until December 11th, the Tuesday that changed everything. I was sitting in my den, the same room where Lemuel and I used to watch football before he passed, the same worn leather chair that's shaped itself to my body over 30 years, and I was looking up reviews for new games Jude might like. I wanted to text him some recommendations, maybe start a conversation that wasn't just, "How's school?" I typed into Google, "Best games for Lego Mindstorms." The search results populated, and there, 4 results down, was a listing from Facebook Marketplace. Lego Mindstorms Robot Inventor, brand new, sealed, $275. My first thought was, good deal. Maybe I should send this to Carolyn for Jude's birthday. My second thought came 3 seconds later when I clicked the listing and saw the photo. It wasn't just any sealed Lego Mindstorms set. It was mine. I know because of the shipping label damage, a small tear on the upper right corner of the box where the delivery driver had been careless. I'd noticed it when I'd checked the tracking photo. It was distinctive, specific, and there it was. Same tier, same box. Posted 6 days ago from Hartford, Connecticut. Zip code 06106, Carolyn's zip code. I sat there staring at my screen, my mouth dry, my heart doing something arrhythmic and painful. I scrolled down. Same seller. Posted 9 days ago. Prismacolor Premiere 72. Pencil set, unopened, 200. The photograph showed the wooden case. My wooden case. The one I'd had engraved on the brass plate with Adelaide's initials. AMB. You could see it in the photo if you zoomed in. Which I did. 3 times. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the phone. I want you to understand what happens in a moment like that. It's not anger first, it's confusion. Your brain tries to solve the problem logically. Maybe there's been a mistake. Maybe someone stole the packages. Maybe Carolyn doesn't know. You build explanations that protect the people you love from being who they're showing you they are. But then you look at the seller's profile, and you see it's not Carolyn's name, it's Jonathan's, my son-in-law, the man I'd helped pay for his teaching certification 6 years ago, the man who called me Pops and hugged me at family dinners and told me I was the father he wished he'd had. That man had photographed my grandchildren's Christmas presents and listed them for cash. I need you to sit with that for a moment. Because I did. For 20 minutes I sat in that chair, staring at the screen, my coffee going cold beside me, while my brain tried to catch up with my heart. And here's the worst part. The part that still makes my chest hurt when I think about it. I didn't immediately feel angry. I felt ashamed. Like somehow I'd done something wrong. Like maybe I'd overstepped by sending expensive gifts. Like maybe I was the problem. That's what betrayal does. It makes you doubt your own worthiness before you question theirs. If you've ever felt that gut punch moment when you realized someone you trusted saw you as disposable, drop A in the comments. And if you're wondering what I did next, you need to subscribe right now, because next is where I stop being the victim and start asking questions that will unravel everything. What I found out about my family, you won't believe it. Hit that button. This story is just beginning. I didn't call Carolyn that night. I wanted to. God, I wanted to pick up the phone and scream, "What is wrong with you? How could you do this?" But something stopped me. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was the fear that if I confronted her she'd have some explanation that would make me the unreasonable one. The overreacting old man who doesn't understand how hard things are for young families these days. Or maybe, deep down, I knew that this wasn't just about 2 gifts. This felt older, deeper. So instead, I did what any man in his 70s with insomnia and Wi-Fi does. I investigated. I created a fake Facebook account. Took me 40 minutes and 3 YouTube tutorials, but I managed. Used the name Michael Torres. Stole a profile picture from some stock photo site of a guy in his 40s. Friendly. Unremarkable. Then I messaged Jonathan's listing about the Lego set. Me as Michael. Hi, is this still available? I'm local. Could pick up tomorrow if you're free. He responded in 11 minutes. Jonathan. Yes, still available. I'm in Hartford, near Bushnell Park. When works for you? Me. Tomorrow afternoon? Around 2? Jonathan. Perfect. I'll send you the address. And he did. It was their house. The same house where I'd had Thanksgiving dinner 3 weeks ago. The same house where Carolyn had hugged me goodbye and said, "We can't wait to see you for Christmas, Dad." I stared at that address for a long time. Then I did something I'm not proud of. I went through Jonathan's other listings. He'd been busy. Over the past 6 months, he'd sold a KitchenAid mixer, gift from my mother-in-law, a set of Le Creuset cookware, wedding gift, barely used, a TAG Heuer watch, upgraded, don't need this one anymore. My stomach turned, because I recognized some of these things. That KitchenAid? I'd given that to Carolyn for her birthday 2 years ago. She told me she used it every week. The cookware, wedding gift from me, not from some generic registry giver. I opened my laptop and started going through my bank records. It's amazing what you don't see when you're not looking for it. 3 years of statements, 3 years of transfers, checks, Venmo payments to my daughter. June 2022, $2,000, Adelaide's dental emergency. September 2022, $3,500, roof repair after storm. January 2023, $1,800, Jude's school trip to Washington, D.C. April 2023, $4,200, car transmission died, on and on. Little emergencies that I never question because when your daughter calls crying, saying she doesn't know what to do, you don't interrogate her. You help. That's what fathers do. I added it up. $42,600 in 3 years. I sat back in my chair, the Excel spreadsheet glowing in the dark room, and something clicked into place. I picked up my phone and called my sister Jessie. She answered on the second ring, groggy. It was nearly midnight. "Art? What's wrong?" "Did Carolyn ever pay you back?" I asked. "Pay me back for what?" "That loan. Last spring. You mentioned it at Thanksgiving. You said she'd borrowed money for Adelaide's medical bills." Silence. Then, "Art, that was $3,000. And no, she hasn't paid me back. She said she would after Jonathan got his Christmas bonus, but—" "I paid those medical bills," I said quietly, "directly to the hospital, in March." More silence. "Oh, Art." "Yeah." We didn't say anything for a while, just breathed on opposite ends of the phone line, 2 siblings processing what we didn't want to name. "What are you going to do?" Jessie finally asked. "I don't know yet." "You want me to talk to her?" "No. Not yet. I need to understand what's really happening first." After we hung up, I made a list of every emergency I'd funded. Then I started calling. The orthodontist's office. No record of an emergency visit for Adelaide in June 2022. Her braces had been routine, fully covered by insurance. The roofing company Carolyn had mentioned. No work done at their address in September 2022. Jude's school, the Washington, D.C. trip. That was 8th grade. Jude was in 7th grade in January 2023. His class hadn't gone anywhere. Every single one. Every single emergency. Fabricated. Or at least exaggerated beyond recognition. I stayed up until 4 in the morning, cross-referencing, calling 24-hour customer service lines, leaving voicemails with businesses that would open in a few hours. By dawn, I had my answer. My daughter had been lying to me for years. Not about everything. I'm sure Jonathan really did lose his job at some point. I'm sure money was tight. But about the specifics. about what the money was for, about how desperate things really were versus how desperate she needed me to think they were. And here's what gutted me. I would have helped anyway. If she'd just been honest. If she'd said, "Dad, Jonathan's out of work and we're scared and drowning in bills," I would have written the check without hesitation. But she didn't trust me with the truth. She only trusted me with the performance. The version of her life that made me feel needed while keeping me at arm's length from the reality. I made coffee as the sun came up, my eyes burning, my chest tight. And that's when I remembered something else. Something Carolyn had asked me never to speak about. Something that happened 24 years ago when she was 19 and terrified, and I held her hand in a hospital room while she signed papers that would change her life forever. A secret. The kind that, if exposed, would crack her marriage apart like dropped china. Jonathan didn't know. His parents, conservative, religious, the kind who talked about purity at holiday dinners, they definitely didn't know. Nobody knew except me and Carolyn. And for 24 years, I'd kept that promise. Because that's what you do for your children. You carry their shame so they don't have to. But sitting there in my kitchen, looking at $42,000 of documented lies, looking at photos of my grandchildren's gifts listed for cash by a man who called me family, I thought, what happens when the person you're protecting forgets you're a person too? I picked up my phone, opened the message thread with Jonathan's fake listing, and typed, "Me, as Michael. Actually, I noticed you have a few other items listed. The pencil set, too. Would you take $450 for both? Cash. I can come by today." His response came fast. "Jonathan, deal. What time?" I stared at that message. Then I did something I'd been planning since 4 a.m., when rage finally caught up with shame. I replied, "Me. How about 3 p.m.? I'll bring my daughter. She's an artist. She'll love those pencils." Jonathan. "Perfect. See you then." He had no idea who was coming. No idea that in 9 hours I'd be standing on his doorstep with a fake name, a recorder in my pocket, and a very specific set of questions. But more than that, he had no idea that I'd already decided something. If my daughter could sell my love for cash, then I could sell something too. Not an object, not money, but the one thing she'd begged me to keep buried. The truth about who she really was before she became the woman Jonathan thought he married. And I was going to make her feel what I felt, not by destroying her, but by making her wonder if I might. So here's my question for you. Was I wrong? Drop A if you think I had the right to do this, or if you think I was going too far. And subscribe, because the next chapter is where I show up at that door, face to face with the man who sold my grandchildren's Christmas. And what happened next, nobody saw coming. Not even me. Hit that button now. 85% of you still aren't subscribed. Don't be the person who misses what happens when a betrayed grandfather stops playing nice. I didn't go to Jonathan's house at 3 p.m. I sat in my car 2 blocks away for 45 minutes, engine off, hands gripping the steering wheel like it was the only thing keeping me tethered to sanity. The recorder was in my jacket pocket. The cash, $450, was folded in my wallet. But sitting there in the December cold, watching my breath fog the windshield, I realized something that stopped me cold. I didn't want to catch him. I wanted to understand him. There's a difference. One makes you a detective. The other makes you a fool, still looking for reasons to forgive. At 3:47, I finally drove to the house. The street looked the same as it did at Thanksgiving. Wreaths on doors, inflatable Santas in yards, that specific kind of Connecticut suburb quiet where everyone's struggling but nobody talks about it. I parked across the street. Jonathan's car was in the driveway. Carolyn's wasn't. She taught afternoon classes at the community college on Tuesdays. The kids would still be at school for another hour. It was just him. I sat there for 5 more minutes watching the front door, the stranger wearing my son-in-law's face. Then my phone buzzed. Jonathan. "Hey, Michael, you still coming? I've got the items ready." My thumb hovered over the keyboard. I could turn around right now, delete the fake account, pretend I never saw the listings, show up for Christmas with new gifts and a smile and the blissful ignorance that had been working fine for 73 years. Instead, I typed, "Me. On my way. 2 minutes." I got out of the car, crossed the street, walked up the driveway where I'd walked 100 times before, for birthdays, for graduations, for ordinary Sundays when Carolyn would call and say, "Come over, Dad, I'm making pot roast." I rang the doorbell. Footsteps inside. The door opened. Jonathan stood there in a Yukon sweatshirt and jeans, smiling, holding the Lego box and the wooden pencil case like they were groceries. "Hey, Michael, right? Come on in, it's freezing." He stopped. His face did this complicated thing where recognition fought with confusion, and for a second, neither won. "Art?" I didn't move from the doorstep. "Hi, Jonathan." His eyes dropped to the items in his hands, then back to my face, then back to the items. The color drained from his cheeks like someone had pulled a plug. I don't. "I'm Michael Torres," I said quietly. "From Facebook Marketplace. Here to pick up my grandchildren's Christmas presents that you're selling for cash." He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. Nothing came out. "Can I come in?" I asked. "Or would you prefer to have this conversation on your porch where the neighbors can hear?" He stepped back. I walked inside. The house smelled like cinnamon candles and something baking. Carolyn always kept the place warm and lived in. There were crayon drawings on the fridge, Jude's sneakers by the door, Adelaide's backpack on the stairs, all the evidence of a normal, loving family. Jonathan set the boxes on the coffee table like they were suddenly radioactive. "Art, I can explain." "Then explain." He ran both hands through his hair, started pacing. "We were going to tell you, I swear. Things have been so tight, and when the packages came, Carolyn and I talked about it, and we thought—" "You thought what?" My voice was steady, too steady. "That I wouldn't notice. That I just assumed the kids loved their gifts and never asked to see them? No. We thought we'd buy them something else, something smaller, and use the money for bills. The electric company was threatening to shut us off, Art. We were 2 months behind on the mortgage. So ask me." Silence. "You have my phone number," I continued. "You have my email. You could have called me any Tuesday afternoon and said, 'Hey, Art, we're in trouble. We need help.' Instead, you took something I gave with love and sold it to a stranger." Jonathan's eyes were wet now. "I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry. I felt sick doing it. But Carolyn said you'd already helped so much and we couldn't keep asking and—" "How much?" I interrupted. "What? How much have I given you? Total. Do you even know?" He stared at me. $42,600, I said. Over 3 years. For emergencies that mostly didn't exist. His face went completely white. "I didn't. Carolyn handled all that. I didn't know the numbers. But you knew about the lies." It wasn't a question. He sank onto the couch, head in his hands. "Some of them," he whispered. "Not all. I swear, Art, not all of them." I sat down across from him. We stayed like that for a long moment. 2 men in a living room full of family photos, the gulf between us suddenly unbridgeable. "Here's what I can't figure out," I finally said. "You're a good man, Jonathan. I've watched you with those kids. You coach Jude's soccer team. You help Adelaide with her homework. You love my daughter. I know you do." He nodded, not looking up. "So, what happened? When did I stop being your father-in-law and start being your mark?" "You're not a mark," he said, his voice cracking. "You're family. That's what made it so awful. Every time Carolyn would say we needed to ask you for money, I'd feel sick. But I couldn't get a job, Art. I applied to 43 schools. 43? Nobody wanted me. And Carolyn's salary barely covers groceries. You could have told me the truth. And look like a failure? You're this strong, successful man who built a whole life and never asked anyone for anything. How was I supposed to tell you I can't even keep the lights on? By trusting me to love you anyway." The words hung in the air. Jonathan finally looked up at me, tears streaming down his face. "I'm sorry," he said again. "I know that doesn't fix it, but I am." I believed him. That was the worst part. I believed he was sorry, and I believed he loved my daughter, and I believed he was drowning. But I also knew something he didn't. Something I'd been carrying for 24 years. And sitting there, looking at this broken man who'd stolen from me out of shame instead of malice, I had to decide. Did I want revenge? Or did I want my family back? The recorder in my pocket was still running. I reached in and turned it off. "Jonathan," I said carefully, "I need you to tell me something, and I need you to be honest. Does Carolyn know I found out?" He shook his head. "Are you going to tell her?" He hesitated. "I don't know yet," I said. "But here's what's going to happen. I'm going to leave. You're going to put these gifts back in their boxes. And at Christmas, when I show up, those gifts are going to be under your tree with my name on them, wrapped like they were never opened. Understood?" "Yes." "And in January, you and Carolyn and I are going to sit down and have a real conversation about money. No lies, no performance. Just the truth about what you need and what I can actually help with." "Okay. But there's something else." Jonathan looked at me warily. "There's something I know about your wife. Something she asked me never to tell you. And for 24 years, I've kept that promise because I love her." His entire body went rigid. "What? What are you talking about?" I stood up. "I'm not going to tell you today. Maybe I never will. But I want you to feel what I've been feeling for the last 3 days. That uncertainty. That sick wondering. That fear that someone you trust has been keeping something from you." "Art, please." "Merry Christmas, Jonathan." I walked to the door. Behind me, I heard him call out, voice shaking. Is she okay? Is she sick?" "Art, please." I turned back. "She's fine. It's nothing like that. But it's something. And whether you ever find out depends on what happens between now and Christmas." I left him there, standing in his living room, looking like a man who'd just been given a bomb with no timer. And driving home, I felt something I hadn't expected. Not satisfaction. Not revenge. Just profound, bone-deep exhaustion. And the horrible certainty that I'd just made everything so much worse. Jonathan called me at 11:43 that night. I was in bed, not sleeping, staring at the ceiling and replaying our conversation in an endless loop, when my phone lit up the dark room. I almost didn't answer, but something in me, maybe habit, maybe guilt, maybe just the muscle memory of being a father who always picks up when family calls, made me reach for it. "Hello?" "Art." His voice was wrecked. "I need to know." "Jonathan, it's midnight. I need to know what you know. Please. Carolyn's asleep and I've been sitting in my car in the driveway for 2 hours and I can't go back inside until you tell me." I sat up, turned on the bedside lamp. "You're in your car right now?" "I told her I was getting milk. That was at 9:30. Art, please. Did she cheat on me? Is that it? Does she have another family? A secret kid?" My stomach clenched. "Jonathan." Because I've been going through every conversation we've ever had, every weird moment, every time she changed the subject or got quiet. And I can't figure it out, but I can't stop thinking about it. It's eating me alive. This was exactly what I'd wanted, for him to feel what I felt, that poisonous uncertainty. So why did it make me feel sick? "I'm not going to tell you tonight," I said quietly. "Then when?" "I don't know. That's not fair. Neither was selling my grandchildren's Christmas presents." Silence on the other end. Then, so softly, I almost didn't hear it. "You're right. You're absolutely right. I deserve this." Something in his voice, the complete absence of defensiveness, the raw acceptance of consequences, punctured something in me. "Go inside, Jonathan. Get some sleep. We'll talk after Christmas. I can't sleep. Every time I close my eyes, I'm imagining what it could be, and every version is worse than the last. I rubbed my face with my free hand. This had seemed so clear in my anger, so justified. Make him suffer a fraction of what he'd made me suffer. An eye for an eye. A betrayal for a betrayal. But listening to him unravel, listening to a good man destroy himself with hypotheticals because I'd weaponized his love for my daughter, I felt something I didn't want to feel. Regret. Jonathan, listen to me, I said. What I know about Carolyn, it's not what you're thinking. She didn't betray you. She didn't cheat. She's not living a double life. Then what is it? It's her past. Something from before you met. Something she's ashamed of. That's all I'm going to say. Before me? Yes. But something I don't know about? Yes. A long exhale. Is it something I'd leave her over? The question hit me like a fist, because the truth was, maybe. Jonathan's parents were strict Baptists. His mother had opinions about women who made mistakes. I'd heard her at family dinners, the subtle judgments dressed up as concern. If they knew Carolyn had given up a baby at 19, if they knew she'd been pregnant by a boy whose name she barely remembered, a one-night mistake that turned into 9 months of secret shame, would they accept it? Would Jonathan? I wanted to believe he would. But I'd also watched him navigate his parents' expectations for 6 years. I'd seen him keep peace instead of making waves. I don't know, I finally said, but I hope not. Art, please, if you tell me now, I promise. No? Why not? Because you need to decide something first. Decide what? I took a breath. Whether you're going to tell Carolyn what you did, about the gifts, about the money, all of it. Silence. If you tell her, if you confess before I force the issue, then we can have an honest conversation. All 3 of us. No more secrets, no more performances. And if I don't, then at Christmas when I walk through your door, I'll tell your wife that I know what you did, and I'll tell you what I know about her, and we'll all blow up together in front of the kids and the turkey and the tree. That's blackmail. No, I said. It's a choice. You get to decide what kind of man you want to be. The kind who hides and hopes I forget, or the kind who owns his mistakes and trusts that love is stronger than shame. I could hear him breathing. I don't know if I can, he whispered. If I tell her, she'll hate me. Maybe. Or maybe she'll respect you for finally being honest. And you, what will you do? That depends on what you do. Another long silence. Then, this isn't fair, Art. You're putting everything on me. You put this in motion when you photographed those gifts. I'm just showing you what consequences feel like. I thought you loved us. The words hit different than he probably intended. I do, I said. That's why I'm giving you a chance to fix this instead of just burning it all down. He was quiet for a long time. Then, okay. Okay, what? I'll tell her. Tomorrow, after the kids go to school. You promise? Yes. I didn't know if I believed him, but I knew that if he did, if he actually found the courage to confess, then I'd have to decide whether I was the kind of father who met honesty with grace or the kind who stayed angry because the anger felt safer than forgiveness. Call me after you talk to her, I said. What if she kicks me out? Then you call me from wherever you end up. And you'll tell me? About the secret? I thought about Carolyn at 19, sobbing in that hospital room. I thought about the promise I'd made her. I'll never tell. I swear, Dad, I'll never tell. If you're honest with her, I said slowly, then I'll let her decide whether to be honest with you. That's not the same thing. No, it's not, but it's the best I can offer. He was quiet again. Then, I'm sorry, Art, for all of it. I really am. I know. Do you forgive me? The question hung in the cold air of my bedroom. Did I? Could I? Ask me again after Christmas, I said. We hung up. I sat there in the lamplight, phone in my hand, wondering if I'd just saved my family or destroyed it, wondering if there was even a difference anymore. Outside my window, snow had started falling. The first snow of December, gentle and quiet, covering everything in temporary innocence. I watched it for a long time, and I thought about my daughter, asleep 3 hours away, with no idea that tomorrow morning her husband was going to confess to stealing from her father. No idea that her carefully constructed life, the one where she was the responsible daughter, the good mother, the woman who'd left her mistakes in the past, was about to crack open. No idea that I was the one holding the hammer. I turned off the lamp, but I didn't sleep, because I knew that tomorrow one of 3 things would happen. Jonathan would confess, and Carolyn would call me crying. Jonathan would lose his nerve, and I'd have to decide whether to push harder or back down, or something else entirely, something I hadn't planned for, something messier and more human than my neat little revenge plot accounted for. The snow kept falling, and somewhere in the dark, I realized that I'd been so focused on making them feel what I felt that I'd forgotten a crucial question. What did I actually want? Justice, revenge, or just to matter again to the people I loved? I didn't have an answer, and by morning it might be too late to figure one out. So here's where you come in. What would you do in my position? Would you let Jonathan confess on his own terms, or would you take control and expose everything yourself? Comment your answer below, and if you're not subscribed, you're about to miss the most explosive chapter yet, because tomorrow came, and what happened? Nobody was prepared for. Not Jonathan, not Carolyn, not even me. Now, let's get back into it. Carolyn called me at 2:17 p.m. the next day. Not Jonathan. Carolyn. I was in my kitchen making soup I didn't want to eat when my phone rang, and the moment I saw her name, my heart stopped. This was it. He'd told her. I answered on the 3rd ring, trying to sound casual. "Hey, sweetie." Silence. Then, "Dad, I need to tell you something." Her voice was different, flat, like she'd been crying for hours and had nothing left. "Okay," I said carefully. "Jonathan told me what he did, about the gifts, about asking you for money under false pretenses. All of it." I sat down at the kitchen table. "Carolyn, please don't say anything yet. I need to get this out." I closed my mouth. She took a shaky breath. "I'm the one who did it, Dad. Not Jonathan. I mean, he helped list the items, but it was my idea. Every time. The gifts, the emergencies, the lies about what we needed money for. That was me." The room felt suddenly smaller. "Jonathan wanted to tell you the truth," she continued, voice cracking. "Every single time he'd say, 'Carolyn, we should just ask your dad honestly.' And I'd say no, because I was ashamed, because I didn't want you to know how badly I'd failed." "You haven't failed." "Yes, I have." The words came out harsh, raw. "I'm 38 years old and I can't pay my electric bill. I have 2 master's degrees and I'm teaching remedial English for poverty wages. Jonathan can't find work. We're drowning, Dad, and instead of asking for help like an adult, I've been stealing from you. Carolyn. And the worst part, I convinced myself it was okay, that you'd never notice, that you'd rather not know, that it was easier for everyone if I just performed. Played the part of the daughter who had it together while quietly selling your love on Facebook Marketplace." She was sobbing now, full, heaving sobs that broke something in my chest. "Where are you?" I asked. "Home. The kids are at school. Jonathan's giving me space." "I'm coming over." "Dad, no. I'm 3 hours away. I'll be there by dinner. We're going to talk, all 3 of us. I can't face you." "Yes, you can, because I love you, and we're going to fix this." She was quiet for a moment. Then, so softly, "Jonathan said. He said you told him you knew something about me. Something I never told him." My throat tightened. "Yes. He's been freaking out all morning, imagining the worst." "Dad, what did you tell him?" This was the moment. The choice I'd been building toward. I could keep the leverage, keep her afraid, use her secret like a weapon until I felt we were even. Or I could do what I'd been asking them to do, tell the truth. I told him it was something from your past, I said, before you met him, something you're ashamed of. Did you tell him what it was? No. Are you going to? I looked out my kitchen window at the snow-covered yard, at the bird feeder I'd built with Carolyn when she was 12, back when our relationship was simple and honest and didn't require performance. No, I said, I'm not, because that's your story to tell, not mine. She started crying harder. But Dad, if he knows there's something, he'll never stop wondering. He'll never trust me again. Then tell him. I can't. Why not? Because what if he leaves? What if his parents find out and they poison him against me? What if... Carolyn, listen to me. My voice came out stronger than I felt. You can't build a marriage on secrets. I tried to teach you that when you were young. I failed, clearly. But I'm telling you now, whatever you're afraid will happen if you tell the truth is better than what will happen if you don't. How do you know? Because I've been married. Because I watched your mother and I nearly destroy ourselves trying to protect each other from hard truths. And because right now, your husband is sitting somewhere wondering if you had an affair, or committed a crime, or have a secret family. And that wondering is worse than anything you actually did. She was quiet. He loves you, I continued. I've watched him. He's not perfect. God knows neither of you are, but he loves you. Give him the chance to love all of you, not just the version you think is acceptable. What if he can't? Then you'll know, and you'll survive it, but you might be surprised. A long silence. Then, will you be there? When I tell him? Do you want me to be? Yes, I think I need you there. Not to speak for me, just to be there. Then I'll be there. Okay. Okay. We breathed together over the phone line for a moment. Dad? Yeah? I'm sorry for all of it, for lying, for using you, for making you feel like you only mattered when I needed something. And here, finally, was the apology I'd been waiting for, the acknowledgement, the seeing. I forgive you, I said, and I meant it. Not because the hurt was gone, it wasn't. Not because trust was restored, it wasn't. But because she was my daughter, and I'd rather walk through fire with her than stand in the cold alone, being right. I'll see you at 6, I said. After we hung up, I sat at my kitchen table for a long time. Then I went to my bedroom closet and pulled down a box I hadn't opened in 24 years. Inside were papers from the adoption agency, a hospital bracelet, a single photograph of a baby girl with Carolyn's eyes, taken before the social worker carried her away. I'd kept them as a promise to Carolyn. If you ever want to find her, we'll have what we need. But also as a reminder to myself, your daughter survived something that would have broken most people. Remember that before you judge. I put the box in my car, not to show Jonathan, not as evidence or leverage, but because after tonight, Carolyn might need to hold something that proved her first daughter had been real, that she wasn't a mistake or a secret, just a choice made by a scared 19-year-old who did the best she could. The drive to Hartford took 2 hours and 43 minutes, and the whole way, I practiced what I'd say. But when I pulled into their driveway and saw them both standing in the doorway, Carolyn's eyes red, Jonathan's face pale, both of them looking terrified and young and desperately in need of grace, I realized I didn't need a speech. I just needed to be their father. And sometimes that means sitting in the wreckage and helping them rebuild, even when they're the ones who lit the match. We talked until midnight, the three of us sitting at their kitchen table while the kids slept upstairs, and Carolyn told Jonathan everything. About the boy whose last name she never learned. About the positive test and the terror. About the 9 months she spent at her aunt's house in Pennsylvania, telling everyone she was doing an internship. About the hospital room and the papers, and the moment she held her daughter for 17 minutes before signing her away. Jonathan cried, not because he was angry, but because he understood, finally, why Carolyn had been so afraid of disappointing people, why she performed instead of being honest, why she'd rather steal from her father than admit she needed help. She'd spent 24 years believing that love was conditional on being perfect, and I'd spent the last 2 weeks proving her right. But sitting there, watching my son-in-law reach across the table and take my daughter's hand and say, "I wish you'd told me sooner, but I'm not going anywhere," I realized something. Revenge had never been what I wanted. I just wanted to matter, to be seen as a person, not a resource. And now, finally, I was. That was 3 weeks ago. This morning was Christmas. Real Christmas. Not the performance version. Adelaide opened her Prismacolor pencils and gasped, actually gasped, and immediately started drawing at the kitchen table. Jude spent 2 hours building his robot, and when it finally moved across the floor, he looked at me with shining eyes and said, "Grandpa, this is the coolest thing I've ever gotten." Carolyn pulled me aside before dinner. "I called the adoption agency," she said quietly. "They're going to help me search for her, if she wants to be found. And if she does, then maybe next Christmas there'll be one more person at this table." I hugged my daughter, and for the first time in years, it didn't feel like performance. It felt like coming home. We're not fixed. Trust doesn't rebuild overnight. But we're honest now, and honest is a beginning. Tonight, after everyone left, I sat in my den with a cup of coffee and thought about the last month, about how close I came to destroying my family because I wanted them to hurt the way I'd hurt, about how revenge is just pain looking for company, and about how the bravest thing you can do is choose grace when you have every right to choose anger. I'm Arthur Bell. I'm 73 years old, and this year I learned that the best gifts aren't the ones you buy. They're the ones you give when it costs you something. Like forgiveness, like truth, like showing up when it would be easier to walk away. My grandchildren didn't receive the gifts I bought them the first time, but they received something better. A family that decided honesty was worth the risk. And maybe, just maybe, that's the greatest gift of all. Merry Christmas. If this story touched you, if it made you think about your own family, your own secrets, your own choices between revenge and grace, then do me a favor. Subscribe to this channel. Because every week, I share real stories about real people navigating the messy, beautiful, complicated work of being human. Stories about forgiveness, resilience, second chances, and what it means to choose love when anger would be easier. Hit that like button if you believe families can heal. Drop a comment telling me about a time you chose forgiveness over revenge. I read every single one, and your stories matter. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that it's never too late to tell the truth, that it's never too late to choose grace, that broken things can be made whole again if we're willing to do the work. And to the thousands of you who've been with me through all 6 chapters, thank you. Thank you for witnessing this journey. Thank you for your comments, your compassion, your wisdom. You didn't just watch a story. You reminded me that I'm not alone in believing that love, messy, imperfect, hard-won love, is always worth fighting for. Now go call someone you love. Tell them the truth you've been holding back. Life's too short for anything else. Merry Christmas, everyone. This is Arthur Bell, signing off.